Hello and welcome to My Voice podcast. I'm Alex Wilkinson, a sport and exercise psychology student from Loughborough University. I'm currently on an internship with Sport and Communities, who are a community development organisation that supports all members of the community, from young to old, across a broad spectrum of needs. This podcast is part of the My Voice project, a national community lottery-funded programme that helps to give young people a voice in their community and a platform for creating change and social action. Thank you for taking the time to join me, and welcome to My Voice podcast.
As we head towards the Easter weekend, we approach the review of the 3-week lockdown made by the government. It's been an incredibly fast-moving and forever changing pandemic, and in these 3 weeks alone, the situation has changed so drastically. The necessary restrictions imposed during the coronavirus pandemic are likely to put pressure on our relationships and family life, and today we'll be discussing how these restrictions have affected relationships and family. I'd like to welcome two guests today, Adrija and Jack, who have very kindly joined me. Firstly, please could you tell the listeners at home a bit about yourself, Adrija and Jack?
Hi, I'm Adrija. I'm an intern at Sporting Communities and a full-time university student.
Hi, I'm Jack. I am an assistant coach of Sporting Communities and I am studying PE at Staffordshire University.
That's great. Thank you very much again for joining me. So, as you know, today's podcast focusing on family and relationships during the coronavirus. Now, there are many positive benefits to living with family. People are having better quality time, eating meals together, which they may have not found time to do before. Families are also playing games together and really enjoying time together. Now, how has your current situation changed with your family or partner at home?
Well, at the moment, I've moved back home with my family, and I think at home, it's really important to kind of spend a lot of time with your family. I mean, I've not had that over the past few months when I've been at university, so I've kind of taken this lockdown as sort of a positive thing to kind of spend more time, whether it be through simple things like just watching TV together or like spending time playing games, things like that, obviously alongside my university work as well.
No, it's really nice because you have got to take it as a positive. This situation is never going to arise for us. So like you said, being away at university, it is really nice to catch up with family. I suppose for you, Jack, the situation's it's got to be similar as you're at university yourself at Staffordshire. How's it affected you?
Well, my situation is a little bit different because I've had to leave my family home at the moment and move in with my girlfriend due to her being pregnant. So I'm at the opposite end. I'm just communicating to my family really through FaceTime, Skype calls, and just sort of keeping in touch on the phone.
How are you finding that?
It was a struggle at first because I've always lived at home and never moved away when I went to uni. So it's just sort of getting used to. You don't want to feel like you're treading on people's toes and when you move in somebody else's house. But other than that, it's all good really. It's just obviously I would like to go up and actually go see my mum and dad, but it's just one of them things. Just got to wait for the restrictions to be lowered.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It is a waiting game for us all. And with the new baby on the way, you'll be taking a lot of extra precautions.
Oh, definitely. But like, because my girlfriend is now 38 and a half weeks pregnant, so she's pretty much nearly there. She's not leaving the house. She's doing a daily exercise, probably about half an hour, but staying clear from everybody. As soon as you see somebody, we cross the road, keeping that social distancing.
It's so important, isn't it? Because never in a million years would you have thought this would
Definitely.
be the current situation when expecting your first child. I mean, is your girlfriend taking any other precautions as a pregnant woman? Are you doing all the shopping, I presume? And
well, we're living with Ellie's mum and dad, so Ellie's mum goes out and does the shopping. As soon as if anybody coughs, straight away wash their hands. We've gone through a serious amount of hand wash in the past two and a half weeks. So we're just trying to every little step we can to avoid catching the coronavirus. We're just taking. She's only leaving the house, like I say, for the exercise, or if she has got an hospital appointment or a midwife appointment.
Going to the hospital when you know all this is going on as well, it can be quite a stressful ordeal.
Yeah, like we had to go for a scan a couple of weeks ago, and well, just after the restrictions came into place, and there was people. I was waiting on the car park because I can't go inside. Whether she has to go in on her own. So I just went in the car park, and you just see people in full bodysuits getting transferred around the hospital. Ellie says when you're in there, you're given a specific seat that you have to sit in, and it just works like that really. So it's very strange when you're going in.
When you go out at the moment, it can feel quite apocalyptic, and in your girlfriend's situation, when she's going to the hospital, it should be part of a positive experience of having a child. Seeing the progress of your baby at the appointments and the scans, it should be something you look forward to.
Yeah, that's a massive thing, but it's got its advantages and disadvantages. Because the advantage for us, we've got to have the 12-week scan, the 20-week scan together. Whereas I know a couple of people who've had their scans cancelled until further notice, so they haven't even seen their baby yet. They can't find out if they're having a boy or a girl, if they want to find out. So it is pretty challenging. So I think we've not dropped on, but I think we've got a little bit lucky in the timing that it's come.
Yeah, God,
in a way,
it's amazing, really, because you don't think about those other factors. I mean, none of my family or immediate friends are pregnant, so it sort of broadens your horizon, doesn't it, when you hear things like that? Yeah,
it does. And like I say, when we don't know what's going to happen when the baby arrives, we don't know if I'm allowed in the hospital yet, how long I'm allowed in the hospital for, if I'm allowed. It all depends. Really.
Yeah.
So that's going to be scary, not just for me, but definitely for Ellie, seeing as there's a possibility she could give birth on her own for her first child.
Yeah.
She's under a lot more stress than I am, put it that way.
And you're at university, you're studying at Staffordshire, so how's your uni experience changing all this? I presume your lectures and everything are cancelled, so how are you getting around that?
Yeah, so we got an email saying that all our lectures were cancelled and it would all be transferred to online lectures, online seminars, little workshops, stuff for us to be doing. We were meant to have one exam in May, but that's been changed now to a 2,000-word assignment.
Wow.
We're meant to provide a coaching session to young people from Stoke-on-Trent, but that's been changed to reviewing a coaching session instead of actually performing one yourself. But I'm sure Adrija will agree that the only good thing to come out of this is that I've pretty much finished all my uni work now. I've just got to go over and check it.
Is that what your university are doing, Adrija? Have they taken similar action?
Pretty much, yeah. We've all moved online now, so all our lectures have been pre-recorded that were cancelled initially, and we do have like weekly Q&A sessions with lecturers if we have any questions about lectures and whatnot. I'm in second year, so I think it's a bit of a different, probably less challenging actually, less stressful, seeing as we just have exams. We don't necessarily have like dissertations and final projects that we need to focus on. But
so it is a lot easier not having a final project to
definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
With a lot of lack of resources, a lot of people are finding because they're not at university. But with uni, I mean, the big thing about uni is the social aspect. I mean, so many people are using social media and meetup groups to sustain a sense of connectedness during education, and people are meeting up online for drinks and chats and quizzes, which helps bridge that social gap. People have learned new ways to maintain friendships and relationships because people find that you're so distant now. I mean, are you finding new ways to keep in touch with your university friends, Adrija?
Definitely, yeah. I've actually, one of my flatmates at university, she's an international student and she's from Germany, but she couldn't actually go back home. So she's currently still on campus, staying on campus.
Right, okay.
And because pretty much most people have left, she's kind of by herself. So I always try and make sure like I keep in touch with her, whether it be through like a video call, or we did, like you mentioned, actually, we have had a few quizzes actually online, which is quite fun with some of our friends, just to like keep morales up. I think definitely with everything we see on the news constantly, it's just kind of it's very sombering, and I think making sure that you keep in touch with everyone and see how everyone's doing, see if anyone needs anyone to talk to. It's all part of being friends, really.
Did your international friend say that she's one of the only people there, or was there still?
She is actually, yeah, because she could have gone home actually, but the problem was I think her dad is pretty immunocompromised, so she thought it wouldn't be particularly safe for her to travel all the way from the UK to Germany and then have to live with him who could be badly impacted by coronavirus if she had got it somehow.
Yeah, it's like my mum's not. She's got a few underlying health issues, so she can't. Her and my dad can't leave the house, so I have to go pick up some shopping sometimes, leave it on the front doors, and then just leave them to it. But
I think the focus, like you're saying, Adrija, your friend, she's like isolated on her own. I think the focus of media stories has been on how families and parents are managing at home. However, there's so many isolated single members of our community, young and old. I mean, they've not received that same focus. I mean, government stated that people could not meet or travel from household to household and they had to stay at home. Do you think that people living on their own should have been given the option to move in with other family members or partners when the government decided to go into lockdown?
That's an interesting question, yeah.
I was thinking it all depends on what sort of job they have. If they're on the NHS front line, maybe then they shouldn't really be allowed to unnecessarily, do you know what I mean, move back into people where they have a high chance of passing on the virus.
I think the main priority here is will someone who's living by themselves moving into a family home, will that affect either the family's health or the person who's moving in, their health? And like you said, if they're working on the front line, I think that's kind of different because they're very much exposed to it day to day. But it's difficult because there's also a lot of elderly people who do need help, this pretty difficult time, especially with groceries and things that are pretty difficult to get a hold of now.
It's a lot more challenging.
Should we be helping them more? I think we should. It's about how we're supposed to do it. I don't really know quite how we should do it without sort of compromising our health as well.
It's about finding that balance, I suppose. But there will be so many sort of single house owners, and I know I've heard a few stories of people that are in relationships and they've decided to almost do an emergency move-in because they didn't know how long it would last prior to lockdown. I suppose once lockdown came, it's already too late because the government said then you had to stay in your households. And I saw a really sort of moving story from Wuhan of a girl that had been in her one-bedroom apartment on her own, away from family, and she was in there for 2 months and 3 weeks, so nearly 3 months. And there was a video of when she came out. You could see the pain that she had in her eyes because she just had no one to talk to, sort of in physical presence, or she was just missed the outside world. So it was quite heartwarming to see sort of once they've come out.
That's where social media does have its positive effect, I believe. I think you see a lot of negative stuff on social media, but in times like this, actually, I feel a big difference with looking at somebody, so on a video chat, rather than just speaking on the phone as well.
Yeah,
definitely.
Isn't there over a video chat? I mean, as simple as FaceTime is, people are doing it just to almost refresh a memory of someone's face.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
I've got a young niece and she's 8 months old. So if we're in lockdown for 2 months, or I haven't seen her now for sort of 6 weeks, she's changed so much in 6 weeks when they're that age. And she started crawling, and there's been a real big change in her behaviour and development. So we always try and FaceTime and just look at her on Skype because she can recognise her voice or her face even through a tablet. Quite amazing. Once my sister puts the video in front of her, she will almost know who's talking to her from like my mum being in her car, and it's quite nice.
That's got to be the negative thing for me, because when Harry is born, if we're still on lockdown, my mum and dad won't be able to see him, or my sister.
Yeah.
So like they might not see him till he's like 4, 5, maybe even 6 weeks old.
That excitement to go.
As you just said, the development in 6 weeks is quite, when the first born to 6 weeks is quite big.
Yeah, it's massive. It is. It's a really big change in their life.
So that isn't the best. That isn't the best of it either.
Do you think family relationships in the long term will be? How do you think they're going to be affected? I mean, do you reckon people will be more appreciative of family because people have realised once you're in lockdown and you can't go and see people that you were seeing so regularly? Will families want to spend more time together? Do you think there'll be more family gatherings? How do you think people will respond once we get out of the situation?
I believe once we do get out of this, there'll be a lot of family gatherings at first, and then they'll sort of just start drifting away. But I do think people will just be mindful of this time, thinking, you know what, I do need to appreciate family time more than I probably should, especially young people who probably their worst nightmare is going out for a family meal. They'd rather just go out with especially Easter weekend, they'd be going out playing with the mates. And I think times like this will reassure them that family time is important.
It reminds you almost of what's important in life and what you need to be appreciative of. As a result of the current pandemic, is there any particular positive which you believe will emerge after the coronavirus, Adrija?
As we mentioned before, I do think it will sort of bring people together a lot more in terms of like checking up on family, and obviously after lockdown, meeting up with family members that, you know, you haven't had the chance to see over the past few months or so. So in that sense, yeah, I think there will be a positive in terms of like, we definitely will appreciate our family a lot more. But then again, you got to think of like the other side where obviously there's been so much negative that have happened because of this virus. So it's a difficult one, really.
It is a difficult question because the two sides are so real, aren't we? I mean, we see on the news daily, as it got mentioned before, it's negative every day because there's no way to escape it. Being reminded constantly about the number of deaths and the impacts. I mean, obviously we heard the news of Boris Johnson this week and his condition worsened. I think it's stabilising now, but I think that showed to the people of the UK that anybody can catch this. No one's safe. And if one of the most powerful or the most powerful person in the United Kingdom can catch it, then you really do need to be listening to the guidelines that have been stated. But I think there is a lot of positives to come out of the coronavirus. I'd like to think societies are going to change and relationships and community will change because people have understood what we're doing for each other. I mean, there's so many stories of neighbours supporting each other, getting shopping, and even looking after those vulnerable or people that are living on their own, those single households.
I hope that the work that the NHS staff do will, obviously within this pandemic, it's been highlighted a lot more than it's probably ever been before. So I hope that people in power, the government, will do something about it, maybe pay rises like they've been asking for. Hopefully that'll come soon.
That's true, yeah.
I do think that they need to be appreciated a lot more than they are.
We've realised more than ever how important our National Health Service is. So
yeah,
there does need to be a lot more support with them because the job that they're doing at the moment is just outstanding.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
Well, we're now coming to the end of the podcast, so I'd just like to say thank you both for joining me today and speaking.
No problem. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.